Hi, everybody. Jennifer here. Week 7. We have made it. Last week, I start school tomorrow. I start year 25, which I can't believe that I've been teaching for 25 years. So very exciting to be able to start that again, fresh, new, ready to go with the middle school kids. So this week we only had one essay to look at. Dennis Beck talked about the paradox of the method actor and rethinking Stanislavski. And I kind of think that's what this whole course has really been about, is looking at the method itself, or the system that Stanislavski had, and the branches of theory that have come off of those things. And I have really found everything super fascinating. I've taken a lot of stuff that we've learned and applied it. I'm excited to do some of those lessons that we had to create with Adler and Meisler and the method of Strasberg. I'm interested to take those to my students and see if they understand some of these concepts. The first thing that I want to talk about that Beck had mentioned was about this dual consciousness of the actor. He says that the actor is the character and the character is the actor. And he uses Diderot to make his point that the actor has to discover himself within the character. And then he realizes in the moment the rapture of emotion. He uses a really interesting word called conflation. I had to look that up because that's kind of a new word for me, but I like the concept that it merges things together. It's a merging of two things together. And when you think about acting, you're taking a person, an actor, and you are creating a character from words that a playwright's written. And so you've got to kind of take the context of what's being written and merge these things together to create a three-dimensional character. His whole point was that the actor takes a part of themselves to create that character. And I believe that that's true. There is a dual consciousness when we're acting. We have to I think actors use their backgrounds and their experiences, while creating their characters. Of course they do. I know that when I read certain scripts, I look at characters and go, oh, that would be interesting to play that person because I can connect with that person. I can connect with what that character is going through in a way. I've had that experience or maybe that emotion, or I might find characters that maybe I want to stretch, that I've never done that before, but there's something about the character that I find some connection to. I like the concept. The next thing I want to talk about is the epsilon method. I want to that was towards the end, but I want to talk about that method because I think that's mostly, he says that the actors do not play the role, they play with the role. Now, the exercise he used was very, very fascinating to me. You're speaking these lines and then you stop and then you speak your own truth as the actor. And then you speak more lines and you speak your own truth and you speak lines and you speak your own truth. And then all of a sudden they merge together, like the whole conflation concept. What an interesting premise to use to create a character. I think that would be a really great exercise for students to kind of do, to merge, to see how much of yourself can you bring into that character. I like that. I think that could be a very interesting concept to bring about within an ensemble and to see how that would play out. Another thing he talked about was the essence of ensembling, that Epsilon actors create a sense of becoming rather than the accomplishment. So he's talking about the real part of being on stage is becoming the character. It's not necessarily the accomplishment of the character. He talks about something that I think we all talk about with our students. And I love this. I'm going to quote this, that during ensemble work, they are listening and responding rather than being deaf to and denying. One of the concepts in improv is to never deny. You always say yes, and you go with it, and you continue that idea. And really, we look back at Stanislavski, and he actually his whole concept of, listening and concentration and being focused within the moment wasn't just self-serving for the actor. I think he really talked about being in an ensemble. Adler really hit home on that as well. And Meisner's whole just do it, just be within that moment. They talk a little bit more about circumstances, but I still think these actors are using these concepts of themselves to bring about the character. I don't think that's so far off. Of course, when we think about the method, we are thinking of these professional actors who embody the character all the time. And of course, that's kind of where the whole method has gotten its bad rap from. But I think there's an interesting aspect to it. I want to talk about a show I saw on Broadway. I went and saw Parade several years ago. I actually had a friend from high school who was in it, but Benjamin Platt was in it. And I don't know if you got to see it or heard about it, but during intermission, before intermission happens, the character that Benjamin Platt is playing is incarcerated into a jail, or he's about to be. He is being interrogated. He does not leave the stage during intermission. The actor does not leave. He stays in character through that whole intermission because it's almost like he wanted to create this realism about what this character was, the strife of what was happening in the character. As I have never seen that before. As a person, as an audience member, I've never seen anybody stay on the stage like that. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go to the bathroom. I wanted to watch and just watch his movements, watch his facial expressions. He never came out of it. He was constantly in it. I talked to my friend in it afterwards, and I said, he does that every night, every show? And he's like, every show. And I'm like, is he like method completely like that all the time? And he goes, no. But he embodies the character from beginning to end, from the moment he's on the stage. And he didn't want to leave the stage because he felt it was so important to give the audience that feeling that, oh my God, he's trapped. And he wanted the audience to feel that as well, even during the intermission. It's such a beautiful show. I hope you get to see that. So I think he had to have that dual consciousness of himself and the character within those moments to be able to do that. It takes a lot of concentration, a lot of, foresight to be able to stay within that moment all the time. The last thing I want to talk about is actually in the middle of the essay. This is sort of a reflection that I have about theater. One thing he talked about was in 1968, he talked about Czechoslovakia and the fact that their theater created some political revolution, political opposition. And they did this by telling the truth of the environment of what was going on during that time. Russia wanted to come in and take the country apart, which they eventually did. And so I look back at theater over the course of history and how powerful it is that it can be politicized. It's kind of a terrible thing that, to take something and make it political. But there were so many times in history that theater is a reflection of what's happening in the world. And I love that concept that they are able to reach out and say, no, this is the truth. This is what's really happening to us as citizens. And they were able to have an opposition and opposition movement put forth towards the government. I guess it connected with me because I'm Slovakian. I have about almost half. My great grandmother came over here in 1919, I think. And so that I've always had a special place, in my heart for that area. So it was just, when I saw that and I read it, it just kind of connected with me. So I felt like wow, we as directors have a lot of power in our hand to help our young actors, help our students speak the truth of whatever script we have, and hopefully cause a reaction in some way to our audience, no matter what it is. I don't want to politicize anything that I do in middle school. That's not my point. But just, I think, to have our own actors speak truth, to find the essence of what is happening in the script, to make there be a connection for the audience in some way. So I have so enjoyed this class. I hope everybody else has. I have learned a tremendous amount. And I hope everybody has a fantastic school year. A lot of people are starting soon or have already started. And so I wish everybody well. And thank you, Professor. It's been great. Bye.